Imagine you found an amazing treasure map leading to a place filled with ancient secrets, epic battles, and hidden wonders. This land and its treasure is cherished by people all over the world, including knights, kings, and adventurers. This special place is known as the Holy Land, a real-life location steeped in history. This land is treasured by followers of three of the world's major religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Even today, all three religions regard this land as sacred. It's home to many important religious sites, and it's also significant to each faith's origins and histories. At the heart of the Holy Land is Jerusalem, an Israeli city deemed sacred by followers of all three faiths. Can you imagine a single piece of land being so crucial to so many people? And what happens when more than one group has the same map and wants the same treasure? Because the land has always been treasured by each of these groups, control of the region has long been a point of contention. In fact, long ago, a series of wars called the Crusades were fought for control of the Holy Land. That sounds like the first clue in our world history mystery question. What drove medieval Europe to launch the Crusades? As we check out why this historical land was treasured as the ultimate prize by so many, we will also look at the causes and significant events of the Crusades, along with their impact on the world. Are you ready, historians? Perhaps you remember the Levant from a previous course? If not, no problem. It's the area where Western Asia meets the Mediterranean Sea and is historically home to early civilizations such as ancient Israel and Phoenicia. Remember, the Levant, or Holy Land, is sacred to Christians, Muslims, and Jewish people. What do you think might happen if one group took control of that region? Late in the 11th century, the Seljuk Turks, a Muslim empire, took control of Jerusalem and much of the Levant. The Turks claimed the land because they viewed it as sacred based on their Islamic beliefs. This action alarmed Christians because it threatened their access to these holy sites. The Seljuks have been expanding their territory for decades, but their control of the Levant was the catalyst that led to the Crusades. Looking at the map, can you see any other reason Christians might be threatened by the Seljuk expansion? Pause here to respond. As the Seljuks expanded, the Byzantine emperor feared an invasion. He felt help was needed to protect his empire, so he asked Western European Christians for support. The leader of the Catholic Church, the Pope, called on followers to join the crusade to protect the Byzantine Empire and fight for control of the Holy Land. Imagine being a knight in France or England during this time. One day you're checking on your crops, and the next you hear about an opportunity to embark on a journey to a sacred land to battle an encroaching threat. Think about what it would be like for knights to hear the Pope's call. What reasons might convince them to join the Crusades? The thrill of adventure probably did it for some. A promise of riches motivated several. The chance to claim new lands enticed many to fight. But perhaps the biggest motivator was a promise made by the Pope. A promise that Christians who fought against the Turks would secure their place in heaven. Kings, nobles, and knights all were intrigued for various reasons. They promised to support Christianity, help the Byzantines, and reclaim the Holy Land. They had no way of knowing that their commitment would last for 2 centuries. After hearing the Pope's rallying call, knights and kings alike were inspired to join the Holy War. Their journey to the Levant was historic, as the Crusades would become one of the defining events of the Middle Ages. This massive conflict, spanning more than 200 years, is usually divided into 4 major wars, each with pivotal moments. As the Crusaders sought to reclaim the Holy Land for Christianity, the Turks defended their territory, viewing it as equally sacred to Islam. During the First Crusade, European forces focused on taking back Jerusalem from the Seljuks. Their victory temporarily won control of the region from the Turks. Some lords and knights even claimed lands in the Levant. By the middle of the 12th century, the Crusaders attempted to push farther into Seljuk territory. However, the Seljuks managed to push them back and regained control of the Holy Land, including Jerusalem. Maybe you remember Richard the Lionheart. He led the Third Crusade, but failed to win back Jerusalem. The Crusaders captured some of the lands around the Holy City, but failed to reclaim it from the Seljuks, who maintained control of the region. The Fourth Crusade diverged drastically from the original mission to reclaim Jerusalem and the Holy Land. Instead, based on political alliances, the Crusaders turned toward Constantinople, taking over the Byzantine city. Why is this ironic? Yeah, one of the original goals as Christians launched the Crusades was to protect the Byzantine Empire from the invasion. The Crusaders' actions deepened the rift between the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches. Can you recall what this disagreement among Christians was called? Maybe you remember the Great Schism. The Crusaders' conquest of Constantinople served as one of the final acts of that dispute. The Byzantines later took back their capital, but the empire remained weakened and susceptible to later invasions. This led to a shift in power in the region. For the Crusaders, the original goal of reclaiming Jerusalem and the Holy Land seemed to have been placed on the back burner. After more than 2 centuries of conflict, Jerusalem and the Levant remained under Muslim control. 2 centuries of war. What toll do you think more than 200 years of fighting had on those involved? Pause here to respond. The Crusaders, weary from years of battles far from home, realized the elusive treasure of controlling the Holy Land was unattainable. The financial and human costs were immense, leading many to question the true value of their quest. Many determined it was time to go home to Europe and address problems there. For Muslim defenders, maintaining control of the Holy Land was a significant achievement, reinforcing their cultural and religious identity. Despite centuries of fighting, the Crusades ended with little change in control of the Holy Land. However, the conflict caused profound impacts worldwide. Let's pause here. What changes do you think these wars might have caused? To this day, all 3 religions, Muslims, Jews, and Christians, deem the Holy Land as sacred, and disputes still occur over control of the region. Still, the Crusades impacted world history greatly, just not in the ways that had been anticipated. Perhaps the most significant impact of the Crusades was on the Byzantine Empire. While Constantinople was reclaimed during the Fourth Crusade, the city and empire were never the same. In 1453, Constantinople was captured again, this time by the Ottomans, an Islamic empire. The Ottoman emperor then made it the new capital of his empire. Expansion in the region and the conquest of Constantinople were a result of a stronger sense of unity among Muslims that developed during the Crusades. Winning the treasure of the Holy Land helped create a stronger Islamic identity. The lengthy series of conflicts had created an uneasy relationship between the 2 sides. But amidst the fighting, trade and cultural exchanges occurred that changed the ways people lived in both Europe and Asia. Those relationships prompted people to share new ideas and inventions. Crusaders, who had become independent and isolated under the feudal system, were exposed to new ways of thinking, unique goods, and innovations that opened their eyes to the rest of the world. Goods such as spices, silk, and precious stones began to flow more frequently in exchange for wool and metals from Europe. Islamic scholars introduced ways to solve math problems and stories about stars and planets that were new to medieval scholars. This led to an age of discovery that prompted explorers, like Christopher Columbus, to venture across seas unknown to Europeans. In short, the cultural exchanges during the Crusades brought about a desire for more innovations and new ideas in Europe. The Crusades began over control of the Holy Land, a region treasured by diverse groups of religious followers. But during 2 centuries of fighting, the combatants learned about each other and shared things that made life better. The world got more connected, and that set off a chain of events that led to more big changes. The Crusades were waged for control of a treasure called the Holy Land, as Christian knights and Muslim warriors battled relentlessly over a region sacred to both. While the conflict resulted in little change in control of the region, it brought about huge changes to the world. Seeing the weakening of the Byzantine Empire after the Crusades, many scholars migrated westward. Several ended up in Italian cities, such as Rome and Florence, thriving centers of culture and trade. It's no coincidence that the Renaissance began around the time the Crusades ended. We'll explore the Renaissance in more detail in future lessons. Next time, we check out what was going on during the Middle Ages in other parts of the world. Until then, keep exploring the past and shaping the future, and remember to always be clever.
Hey, hey.